Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer here with now two-time Vandy Sports Podcast guest Blake Fromang, former Vanderbilt offensive lineman. He's going to debrief us on a lot of stuff that we don't understand. Blake, I'm going to hand it to you. Tell me about the Vanderbilt offense. What's been going on that maybe is going over my head recently?
You guys are covering the quarterback play and skill positions pretty well. So, what I want to bring to the table for this podcast is talking about the big boys up front. And I'm going to include Cole Spence in this because he stepped up last weekend. So, what I'm seeing is they move Xavier Castillo to center. And I played a little bit of center in high school, so I don't have a whole bunch of experience, but I know snapping the ball is hard. And I want to give Xavier Castillo his flowers because his first start, from what I know, is his first start at center was against Alabama.
Mhm.
And then he went and played Kentucky at center, and he had really good games, both games. And one thing that gets lost is you, as the center, have to go against the biggest, strongest guy on every single team, every single game. In you know what makes it different than every other position on the line is you have to call out the fronts. You're pretty much the quarterback of the offensive line, and two, you have to snap the ball to the quarterback every single play while you're getting hit in the face by the biggest guy on the other team.
Mhm.
And I watched film, and I'll tell you that I am so impressed with Xavier Castillo. I think, as you and I were talking earlier on in the season, I was saying if I was going to attack this offense, I'd force us to run up the middle because I thought it was all right, but I didn't think that was a strength of our offensive line unit.
Mhm.
And I'd try to contain Pavia as much as we can. But now that we have a center who is great at the point of attack, that opens up the power game, the inside zone game. And I think that's what we saw last week with some of the runs up the middle. I posted some clips on my Twitter of Xavier getting some blocks. I think Lasoya, he's better at guard, candidly. You need the center on a lot of run plays to just set up the defensive tackle, especially when there's combination blocks, and the guard comes in there and cleans it up. So Xavier, he's so big, he's getting some movement or at least keeping the guy in a position and not getting pushed back. So Lasoya or Hubbard or Cabo Wesley can come in and get a good double team with him. So I'm super impressed with our interior line play. I thought the footwork looked really good this week. Pass pro looked good. I'm happy with the communication up front. Chase Mitchell, I think he's definitely taken some strides from the first game till now.
Mhm.
His second level blocking, I saw some plays he made are great. He was good at the point of attack too. Gunnar Hansen is a dog, so he knows he's good. Everyone knows he's good. He has more bouquets of flowers than anyone else on this offensive line. So I won't get into him too much, but we can all say he's good. And finally, well, not finally, because everyone deserves some love, is Hubbard made some incredible plays, too. His
Mhm.
pulling has gotten a lot better. He's letting his athleticism show. He's making blocks at the point of attack. He's getting up to linebackers. I'm impressed with that. And my final note is Cole Spence.
Mhm.
So after Bresnahan and them left, our tight end run blocking took a bit of a hit. And running an offense like we do, we need, the best perimeter blocking we could have. And that one play that really highlights it is that one where Cedric Alexander laid the block of the year probably for Vanderbilt, and it's getting played everywhere. But, watching that play back, Steele looked good, but really look at Cole Spence. He took that defensive end and he drove him back 2 or 3 yards, and that's a hard block to do.
Mhm.
So I'm happy about that. There was one on that 3rd and 1 where, he had a little bit of an issue giving up inside leverage to the defender at first. He stayed with the block. Pavia was able to run around him and get the first down. It's those little plays that no one pays a whole lot of attention to that keep the offense on the field and give us the best chance to win. So with all of that, I also want to say that I've noticed that it's very encouraging sign is our offensive line is giving that extra half second to a second of blocking.
Mhm.
because sometimes, with the mesh of handing the ball off or keeping it and Diego's making moves and reading things, you need to give him that extra second of blocking. And I'm seeing that consistently from our tight ends and our offensive line. So I think it's a very encouraging sign. And I want to tell on the record all of you that I'm eating pro on the strong tackle, strong guard thing. I
Mm.
did say it's only weird if it doesn't work, and it's working. So even though I don't get it all the way, it works. So I'll eat it on that. So I'm so happy with our offensive line play. I think this year it's looked the best it's looked in years.
Blake, I was gonna ask you about the strong guard, quick guard thing. You're in?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, everyone is doing what they need to do, and Kentucky going from Alabama to Kentucky and having two good games up front against them, because holding calls are going to happen, sacks are going to happen, but it's really on a consistent basis. Are you guys, all five of you, getting your job done? And they are. So yeah, I'm eating it. Coach Klinakis is galaxy brain, and I'm just an idiot. So that's a win for him.
Fair enough. Blake, you mentioned the move to center for Castillo. That was one of the main reasons I brought you on. Tell me more about that. Why did that unlock Lasoya at guard? And why has he been able to make that adjustment to center so quickly? It feels like that's a more difficult adjustment than people realize, and it seemed pretty seamless.
It did. I got to imagine, we had a bunch of people when I was there practicing center. Like, you always have a couple people getting reps because you need that. Um, and I actually DM'd Julian Hernandez, who was the center, I think last year and a couple years before that. And I was like, "Were you teaching this guy some stuff? Like, what's going on?" He laughed and said, "No, he's always been that good. Like, he wants to do it, and he's got the right mentality, and he plays hard." So, um, looking at the transition, I'm sure he was taking center snaps throughout practice, at least in camp. He probably has some experience doing that in practice. Where I think it helps, and I think Clark Lee hit on this in his press conference, is you have a much bigger body at the point of attack,
Mm,
being the center. Um, and it's what I hit on earlier, is he's, at least by size, harder to move than Lasoya, who's more of a athletic type build. He's a big guy, but he's more of an athletic type build.
mhm,
So I think the way that this has worked out is, like I said before, is you have someone who can not get pushed back as easily, and he's good. I mean, Castillo's getting movement, and then that sets up Lasoya for success on those double teams. Because the defender, especially if you have a nose guard, most times they're firing off just straight into the head up on the center. They're hitting the center in the face, and they get their arms on the center. That leaves their whole side of their body open. And
mhm,
what we're trained on double teams, at least when I was there, it looks like they're doing this too, is one man, it's called the post. You post him up and get him stood up, and then the other guy comes in and hits him, in the ribs or in the hip level, to get that lateral movement to the side you want to get it. So I
mm.
think because Castillo is so strong there and is able to keep good leverage and not get pushed back, that's unlocking Lasoya to be able to get effective double teams. And you know, they're blocking till the whistle.
Mhm.
I was very encouraged, watching the film back, because it looked like they had a good game. Just watching the film, every play I was noticing something new, watching it again, noticing something new. So yeah, I'm happy. I think the transition was good, and I think that definitely unlocked Lasoya to be more athletic, because he can get off the ball quick and he can get into that, one technique, or head up, nose, hip, or wherever the angle is on him, fast, because he's more athletic than Castillo. So that's why I think we're having some success there for sure.
I think another reason that they've been able to be successful is their play at tackle. Feels like if you have two good ones, you've got a chance to be really good, and I think they do, Blake.
I do too. I'm happy with it. What it looks like to me, Joey, is, in all credit to Tim Beck here, because our first down success and our second down success has been good. It has been. When it's 3rd and 4 or less, or 3rd and 5 and less, you have a bunch of options, and the defense has to account for that, because our run game is proficient and we can reasonably get those yards. And what I like that we're doing is Beck is calling a lot of three-step drops where he's trying to get the ball out quick.
Mhm.
So it takes a lot of the heat off the offensive line, especially the tackles, to hold blocks for 3, 4, 5 seconds at a time. So I think, as well as the offensive line is playing, Beck is calling plays that gives them a chance to be successful.
Mhm.
He really is. You're putting your guys in a spot to win. So, credit to him for that. So yeah, the tackle play has been good. It really has. I'm excited, with what we have. I think, Gunnar Hansen's obviously an NFL prospect. I think he can play any spot on the line and at the next level. I think Chase Mitchell's really come into his own. He finishes out a solid career. I think he's got a chance too. So I'm happy with it. I definitely am.
I like that you brought up Tim Beck. I think that's been a huge catalyst for their success. I think I wrote something about that last week. Clark Lee has talked about how much he loves his feel. He loves just the timeliness of his calls. Blake, to me, also, I think a big part of it is how he's positioned Pavia, because obviously Pavia's had a great year. He's been everything they've needed, but he's also got some deficiencies, and we saw it a lot throughout fall camp. I don't know if I've ever looked at a Vanderbilt game this year and thought about those deficiencies. It feels like Tim Beck is positioned Pavia perfectly to be able to command the offense and do some things that maybe you didn't even think were possible throughout fall camp.
Well, I wasn't able to go see any fall camp, so I'm not sure what you guys were seeing. I've read the write-ups, but in terms of just watching it live, I think, the way I look at it might be a little different. Uh, One thing I was thinking about though is, yeah, Pavia's prolific. I mean, he's killing it right now. And I was asking why, and everyone knows he's got the variables. He's fast. He can move. He's brave. I don't want to use the term I'd use, but he's brave. Like he's not afraid to, make a read or take a chance or get some contact on him. But if you really think about it, he's been running this offense for years. This isn't some learning curve he had to come into and figure out, which is a huge, huge, huge upside for us. Um, it's just the people around him need to figure out the offense like he did, and I think it finally started clicking. They got confident, and now, it's every time they're on the field, we expect to score. I mean, Joey, when's the last time you felt that way? Like you felt like we have a plan and we should score. Even late in the game when it's close on against Kentucky, at no point was I like freaking out thinking we're going to blow this same old Vandy. I was like, heck, if they score, we got Pavia going in and we got Stowers and the offensive line looks good and Cheryl and all them. Like there's a killer instinct on this team this year that I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. It feels like they've always made the timely play, and that's largely something you can attribute to Pavia. Just, I agree. I don't think they've had a team that's had the killer instinct in a long, long time, and I think he gives them that. Just you've played a lot of football at a lot of different levels. Just how important is a guy like Diego Pavia in terms of his leadership and just kind of the edge that he's brought them? Because I think we talk about it a lot, but I think that's still something that probably can't be overstated.
It's not. It's huge to have someone in there who's confident. When things aren't going great, who's saying, let's keep going. I mean, obviously, he's the leader of the offense. I don't think there's any question about that. But as far as buy-in, that definitely helps. But if you don't, a leader can only go so far. Everyone else needs to get behind it and believe it too. I think he's the catalyst for that for sure. But I think there's a shared belief among everyone on that team, that we can do this now. And I'm sure he was the catalyst for change for that. But I think everyone up there is really believing, and success drives belief and confidence. So him pulling things out like that crazy Johnny Manziel touchdown pass that he had against Kentucky, it just emboldens everyone to say we're doing the right things. We need to do it the right way. So he's definitely the catalyst for all of that. But I think as a collective, the offensive line, the wide receiver group, the tight ends, I think they all believe too, and they should get some credit for being leaders in their own regard.
Sure. Last thing for you, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. You can dodge it if you want, but Clarkley said that the Alabama game was the best offensive line play he's seen throughout his tenure. Blake, it feels like this is a new level of offensive line play, at least in recent memory for Vanderbilt in the last 2 or 3 years. Just have you seen offensive line play like this? What are the other teams that have maybe done it at this level?
Are you asking me about like past Vanderbilt teams?
Yeah. Have you seen play like this recently? Because you obviously pay more attention to it than most people do.
Uh,
You can sidestep it if
no,
you
I
want.
won't. I won't sidestep it. I'm just trying to figure out how I want to answer it. I don't want to shoot from the hip on this one. So I'm proud of my years there.
Mhm.
You know, my first 2 years went, uh, two bowl games. We had good offensive lines, but we we didn't get the win that Alabama game was. So I will say this: that was the most impressive win from an offensive line unit in Vanderbilt history.
Mhm.
I will say that. I think the offensive line was good that game. I mean, I didn't go through and grade every single person's snaps and stuff, but you know what, Joey, I'll give them their flowers.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I'll say there's some merit to what Clark is saying.
For sure. That's all I got for you, Blake. Anything you want to add? And I won't keep you too long. Obviously, looks like you got to go to work.
Yeah, I do have a question for you. Is Chris Lee starting to smile more now that Vandy's winning a little bit? He's more fun to report.
Yeah, Chris Lee is smiling a lot more now, and he's also smiling because there's a guy on his podcast wearing a suit, and Billy and I have never reached that level.
Oh, I just got, you know what, work aside, I got dressed up for you, Joey. This is all for
Right.
you. You're the face of the program now with all the memes on Twitter and the signs. So,
I think you've
I
made
have
that
to
you've
show
made
you.
that agenda go a lot more than it previously had.
Just keep fighting the good fight, Joey. Maybe you're the catalyst for change on all this.
I think it's your Brock Taylor memes. That's probably the biggest catalyst for change here.
I love it. All right, buddy. Thank you so much for having me on. Go Doors. Let's make a bowl game. Let's win this week. We're doing it.
Blake, we'll have you back on soon. Appreciate you, man.
All right, thanks, buddy. See you.
Yeah.